Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. I am Fahima Mohammed, your host and relationship coach. A very warm welcome to all of you wherever you're watching, whether it's on Sky Channel 752, Facebook or Twitter. We have another topic for you tonight and we would love to have you join in the conversation. You can do by calling in directly live into the studio on 01924231083. Please do ask the bill payer's permission as standard network rates do apply. You can call or message us definitely for free on our free WhatsApp service. And that number is 075-858-35150. And we will keep you anonymous if you wish. So I can still put through your questions or queries and comments to myself and my guest tonight. We would love to hear your voices, so please feel free as the numbers will remain at the bottom of your screen. Tonight, we're going to be talking about what men want. We talk a lot to women and we talk a lot about different topics. Now, let's hear from a young relationship coach all the way from the West Midlands. We have with us tonight, Abdullah Hassan. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much for having me on today.
I really appreciate your time and I'm really interested in this topic. And I think that we don't really touch on this because men don't usually open up, but you can also challenge me on that, but that's my opinion. So I want to hear stories about what men want. I'm sure there's a lot of men out there even probably, thinking, is he really going to give the secrets away? And do we need to hear that as women? Absolutely, yes. And that's why I'm looking forward to this conversation tonight. Before we go into it, Abdullah, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, hello, my name is Abdullah. I'm a relationship coach, writer, and poet. I've been doing relationship coaching for about 2 years now. I absolutely love what I do. I can make a big difference in people's lives, and especially women, and to put a smile on their face. So that's what I do. I'm really happy with where life has taken me. I'm so glad. Jazakallah. It's been absolutely amazing.
What made you go into relationship coaching? Because I do find generally there's a lot of women that might actually talk about this topic, and it's very difficult even to get guests on here unless they're professionals. And usually you find them at a much older age. I'm not trying to judge anyone, but I can just tell that you're someone who is young and of the newer and current generation. That's why it's so interesting to have you on, because it's good to hear the fresh ideas and someone who is helping other men and women, because we do need that. So what made you decide to go into relationship coaching? Because men don't normally talk about relationships. They find it very difficult. They can be top of their game when it comes to their profession, and even when it comes to their friends, they don't really speak about relationships that much. So what's your sort of take on that?
Well, I'd like to begin with saying that's a very good question. The new must replace the old. And I became a relationship coach because of my mom. And I was raised by a very strong, feminine woman. And she had masculine traits as well. And seeing someone love me so much, so immensely, taught me that when I grow up, I have to be a strong masculine man. Now, in a traditional household, the husband is the breadwinner. He goes out, he provides for the family. And who takes care of the children? It's the mom. So I spent so much of my time, more than usual, with my mother. And she was so loving and caring that she instilled in me so many life lessons that I carry on inside of me today. And when she used to speak to me, she used to say, Abdullah, the things that I am telling you is just not me telling them to you. I am telling you and the children that you're going to have and the children that they're going to have. So with all that wisdom that she bestowed on me, I feel privileged to even speak about her to a mass audience and help women understand that men like me can exist, who are masculine, who are strong, who are caring and understanding towards women.
Lovely, amazing. What a beautiful story. And bless your mom. Inshallah, she's watching and very proud of you tonight. I just want to also add, you do have certain sort of ideas yourself when it comes to what men want, obviously through your coaching, through your studies. So let's get straight into it. One of the points that was raised before the show, as we discussed this before, was that men want you to be there first. Now, that could be quite controversial because, a lot of women, they may not be from that, especially living in the West, or it's difficult where, people do end up having relationships and it hasn't ended up well, whether it's in divorce or even going further and they do actually have, an open relationship. So what's your thoughts on that? I mean, is that something that's a deal breaker for, for most men? What do you think?
It's a very broad question, and I'll answer that in a simple way, the best I can. So men want to be your first in the sense they want to be the first, let's say, the first person to take you to the beach. When a man is your first, he feels privileged. He feels happy. He feels like he's provided you with value, with an experience that no man has done before. And that's what I mean when I say men want to be your first. A man wants to be the first person to make you, let's say, a Spanish omelet. He wants to be that first individual in any realm of your life. Let's say if you have been intimate with someone in the past, it doesn't mean that you still can't be his first. You can still be intimate with him in the sense that you add something on. For example, you've been to the beach before, okay? Have you been to a beach in Australia, let's say? If that makes sense. There is an idea of having something that's new involved in a first that you've already experienced before, to add something that is unique to him.
I love the analogy and I know exactly what you mean. So does that mean, though, it's not necessarily about the woman, it's about a man being in a particular way so that he provides that experience?
Yes, men, since the dawn of human existence, have always been in a position where they want to be a way of showing women the world, an experience. And I always read back to a very famous movie, Aladdin. When Aladdin first meets Jasmine, he takes her on the magic carpet. And where does he take her? Around the world. And Jasmine has always lived inside this beautiful palace. And she's a queen, and she has all these beautiful life experiences, but she's never been outside of that wonderful palace she's always been in. So when Aladdin's able to show her the world, she feels happy, not only her, but he feels a sense of, I have been the first person to show her the world. And that's the best analogy I could put into making you understand what men really want when it comes to being the first.
That's a beautiful picture, and I do love the whole idea of the story. However, we do find a lot of women nowadays complain that men do not fit that bill, or they're not capable and they're not able. Do you see that still happening? Because women are sort of stepping up with their roles, and at the same time, men seem to have always, had the higher position or whatever it may be. But maybe it's not enough anymore for a lot of men, or they are sort of like, falling short in a lot of the things that you've just described. Do you find that still a sense? Because a lot of men are struggling to meet the expectations of women. Do you think expectations has risen, or do you think that men are not on par with what they need to be? Which one do you think that is?
That's a very good question. If a man is well-mannered, is polite, is hardworking, I don't think any man can be lazy enough to not provide beautiful things for his spouse or significant other. And women, usually when they're in, let's say, when they're in their early 20s, is when they are living the peak human experience. Whereas for a man, his peak human experience starts around the age of 30 or more.
Interesting.
This is because by that time, he's more established himself when it comes to his finances, when it comes to having a nice house, having a nice car. He's more established in that sense. Whereas if a man's only just starting out, he's in his early 20s, he's just got his job, he's slowly building himself up. So by the time he's 30 or more, he's a bit more financially okay. He has a car now. He is able to provide in the best possible sense.
I love that that you mentioned that, actually, because we do encourage marriage at a young age, and women are obviously emotionally also mature at a young age, and men normally need to take some time. It's not just about the actual finance and things like that, but you're absolutely right that they do need time. So basically, I do have a question actually. So before I ask mine, let me ask you this one. I had one sent to me saying, Salaam alaikum, loving the show as always. What is going on in the mind of men who do not support their wife financially or emotionally? This is a question from one of an anonymous viewers.
Okay. Well, the best way to answer that is a man, regardless of his wife helping financially or not, as a Muslim man even, you have to be in a position to say, you know what? I have to be the man. I have to step up and be the provider. It's always been this way. This is how societies have always functioned through the dawn of human existence. I've never heard of a society dating back to centuries where a woman's been the hunter and the man stayed at home and he's been like, you go collect and hunt, and I'll stay at home and cook. Let's say, so it's the man's duty to go out and provide for his family, to come back and give those resources to his wife, his children. That's the best way a nuclear family can function.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I hope that answers the question. I think that a lot of men, again, in that sort of department do fall short. And obviously in a society where there's growth of feminism, sometimes it does not help even the family unit. And women need to obviously be careful as to how they're doing certain things. We are coming into a short break, so I'm going to ask you, these questions and we follow it through after the break. But however, so far, do you not think, quickly before we go into the break, how does a man sort of mature in their emotional intelligence? Because I know financially they need time as well to grow. But what about the emotional intelligence? I think they need more time than even 30 sometimes, or it's just my opinion.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Because for such a long period of time, a man has been denied the wonderful resources women have been accustomed to in their early 20s. By the time he does receive all these beautiful things, financial things, materialistic things, he feels like he's in a position where he needs to explore when it comes to dating other women, getting to know other women. This is why a lot of females, when they reach the age of 30 and they start seeing someone who is 30 as well, say that men aren't emotionally ready to commit. And this is because
Abdullah, you've given us so much food for thought at the moment, and we are coming onto a break. So I'm sorry to cut you off, but we are going to continue with that when we do come back. Please do stay tuned, as we will be asking Abdullah some more questions. It's very interesting, and I'm really eager to get into a man's mind even more. So if you do have any questions for Abdullah, please don't, hesitate to call in, and I will read them out or listen to you. We'll see you shortly. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV. You're watching Abdullah talk to us about what men want. And I feel very privileged to be inside a man's head tonight. So if you want to join in, please do send in your questions, and we can definitely get into the mindset of a young man who actually is also a relationship coach and helps hundreds of people with their relationships in order to get them where they need to be. You do actually coach men and women. What's the main differences that you see when you do coach men and women, regardless of, whether it's age or culture? How do you find that they come to you with issues, and what are the main things that pop up in the sort of the case studies that you deal with?
That's a very good question. What I've found is a lot of women come to me in terms of having issues with their significant other, whereas men come to me with having no significant other.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. A lot of the times women are going through something very traumatic that's happened because of the way that a certain man has been raised. And even though he's a, let's say, practicing Muslim, the way that he treats women is very different to the way that he practices his religion. A lot of the times there is a miscommunication, and that's only because of the way that he was raised in his household.
Do you think that's a cultural thing as well, though?
It can be, yes. But I feel like if a man has a very good relationship with his mom, then he turns out to be a very good, caring, masculine man who values women. There's a little example that I want to give you that relates back to my family and the way that my mom was raised, and hopefully it can be very insightful for the viewers that are watching. So when my mom was being raised and when she was very young, she used to say, my dad, my grandfather, he asked my mom for a drink. And while she was on her way to get him something to drink, my grandmother said to my mom, get me one as well. So my grandfather stopped my mom and said, I want you to make sure that when you're returning back, you get the drink for your mom first and me second. And even though I asked you first, you have to get her the drink first. Now, when she was imparting that knowledge onto me, that made me realize the value a woman holds in the household and much more than a man. So if you're raised with morals such as this, you really understand the way that you need to treat your women.
I love that.
So
I absolutely love that. No, and I think that's really good because it comes up to the other question, which I didn't think of before until you brought it up, with regards to mummy's boys. And most women are scared of that. But it's not about being a mummy's boy. It's about the upbringing. So you can still be a mummy's boy. But then again, what does the mummy's boy mean? Because a lot of women are probably scared of that, thinking that they're marrying a man who is not ready for marriage. What is your definition of a mummy's boy? And is it a good or a bad thing? Do you define yourself as one?
That's a good question. I would say 100%, but without any negative connotations to it.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Mummy's boy is generally referred to as someone being very overloved and overprotected by.
Mm-hmm.
I was loved very much so by my mom, but never overprotected. She said, I have taught you all the beautiful things that our religion teaches us. It is your job now as a grown man to navigate your way through life, knowing what's good and what's bad. It is your decision to make. I have imparted that wisdom onto you. It is for you to go away and think of, okay, this is bad. I should avoid this. Think back to the way that I was raised. Is this something that would align with who I am, what my core principles are as a human being, as a Muslim, as a man, the way that I need to treat women around me? How did my mom treat me? Or how did my dad treat my mom? So I think I know a lot of the times some people aren't blessed with very loving, beautiful parents. And everyone has their issues. Everyone has a different family dynamic where they grow up. But the thing is, if you really want to know if a man is going to be loyal to you, there's one thing I always say that you need to understand as women. It is, if you think a man's going to be loyal to you, he has to be loyal to God before he meets you. And what do I mean by this? A man needs to say to himself, I am going to let go of all the desires this world has, not for any woman, because a lot of the times men think, when I get married, I am going to be loyal to my wife. If anyone looks at me, talks to me, I'm going to look down. I'm not going to do anything bad once I get married. But you need to understand men who say to themselves, I'm going to be loyal to God first. I'm not going to do anything bad. And then when I'm married, I'm still going to be loyal to God. Those are the men that ultimately get or are loyal to you at the end of the day. It's like preparing for Ramadan. They say you should start fasting even before Ramadan starts. Same way, you need to start fasting in terms of your loyalty to God before you get married.
I love that. That is so, so refreshing to hear, especially from a man. And a lot of women are very afraid and they're always trying to figure out if, I know that fear all the time from, listening to, whether it's like, your colleagues or, just female in general, they just have that fear of, disloyalty and not having the trust. So that point is extremely vital and crucial for them to realize. Also, when it comes to the upbringing, I mean, a father does play a role. And like you said, not everybody has that in one sort of role model. Even if you don't have the parents, you might have a family member or an uncle or whatever, or even someone in the community that you can turn to. So these kind of people are very, very influential when you are growing up. But if you do have that in your household as a caregiver, it's really, really important. However, when it comes to a man wanting to feel like a man with you. Let's just switch it now. When, we've done the household. What about the women today who have changed a lot? Are they still capable of making a man feel like a man? Do they even know how? Or is there some sort of like, sort of ways that may be changing where men are sort of feeling that, am I having to not even be masculine around a woman anymore because it becomes where, I'm not allowed to be myself? Do you think that's actually happening, or do you think that, it's actually okay?
That's a very good question to ask, and I'm glad you did. I recently published a book. It's an ebook online. It's called 10 Things Men Want Women to Know But Will Never Tell You. And I give examples.
Repeat that again so that anyone that's missed that, they can get your ebook. What was that name again?
It's called 10 Things Men Want Women to Know But Will Never Tell You.
Okay, so tell us. I'm excited. Give us a clue.
Right. Well, these are subconscious mysteries even men don't really realize until you expressly show them or tell them. If I were to tell these things to a man, he would blindly agree with me. And these are things that women can use to make sure that the innate masculinity a man has comes out and it can flourish. And your marriage or your partnership can even grow like into a beautiful garden, even if it's just 2 roses right now. So I think I'll give you an example, which is the best example that I can give. Let's say if a woman's inside of the kitchen and she is cooking something, and she wants to bring out the man's masculinity for him to feel like a man, because a man ultimately wants to wear the pants in the relationship, feel like the man of the house. But it is at the same time, you need to realize as a female, as a woman, you are ultimately also having a big effect in terms of controlling what the man does. You have in a positive light. So let's say you're in the kitchen, you're cooking something and you want to make him a peanut butter jelly sandwich. So
hopefully not. I think the man will run away.
Let's say you're making any type of sandwich and you want to open a jar of jelly. So all you need to do is you need to call the man, but you need to say, so and so, can you bring your strong masculine hands in here? I need your help. Now, men like
how
to be
realistic is that, Abdullah? Seriously.
It depends on the relationship that you have,
okay.
really. But you can always be playful with it. It doesn't have to be something that's very serious. If you're married for a long period of time, this is something that you should use, in my opinion. You just say you have to understand that even if you're married to someone who's very skinny, he likes to hear the fact that he is strong. If you call him strong, he will feel amazing about himself. He is going to feel like...
Is it you then needing to sort of like build his ego? Is that what you're trying to say?
In a way, yes. In a way, it's good. Because
but don't you think a secure man wouldn't need that?
Even a secure man does.
Okay.
He likes the fact that his beautiful wife can think that he is strong. Mentally.
Very, very interesting. Okay, we do have a question before you go on, actually, and I want to do this before we get into the break. We have another anonymous viewer asking, what is the definition of respect for a man? And what is the definition of respect in a man's belief system? Very good question. What's your thoughts on that? Respect.
Very good question. I think it's the fact that loyalty plays a big part. Men do not like to share what they think is a very prized possession to them. Let's imagine that his beautiful wife is the Mona Lisa painting. Now, he admires this painting very much, and he wouldn't want the world seeing it, even though it's valued at £1 billion, dollars, whatever it may be. He wants to keep it inside in a beautiful house where only people that he values and she values can get to see her. So I think that's one of the main things.
Very good. We are going to go into a break, so we're going to come back with that because I actually want to go deeper into that question, actually, because I think it's a lot wider about how men view respect and the definition of it. And thank you so much for sending those questions through. I think it's really interesting. And like I said, it's a really hot topic tonight to get into a man's head. We need to, because we need to understand what's in your mind so that we can actually also, see if there is kind of collaboration. There is kind of like, a way of being a team, between men and women. We're not here to be sort of like one up on each other or better than each other. It's just about understanding and opening up. And I think if we have conversations like this, then maybe we can have better relationships if we have understanding for each other's way of thinking. So inshallah, it's beneficial. And if you haven't, seen the beginning, please do rewind, but do stay tuned and catch us at the other side of the break in a few minutes as we're going to go back to Abdullah's sort of definition of respect from a man's belief system. And we will see you in a few moments. Don't go away, as we have plenty more to discuss on this topic. See you shortly. Salam. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. We're really getting into a mind of a man tonight. And we had a question before the break with regards to a definition of how man, sort of like look at their belief system with regards to respect. What else could you add to that? Because I think there's much more that a man requires to be respected. And the need for respect actually is so much higher than even, like you mentioned, the strength or even, the fact that they require love. I think it's about respect. So what other things that a woman needs to know when it comes to respecting her man?
That's a good question. I would say if a woman is attacking a man's masculinity, he would see it as disrespect. I said at the start, men like to be seen as useful. We love to fix things. Imagine that you are married to Bob the Builder. He absolutely enjoys fixing things around the house, fixing things mentally, physically, anything that's broken. So let's say something's broken inside the house and your man is struggling to fix it. If the wife goes and says, "Oh, you can't fix it, just call your brother." Now that is highly disrespectful to any type of man because he feels emasculated because of that comment. And what women need to do is avoid anything that has to do with that. And secondly, what I will also say is there's a phrase women love to use, which is, "We never go out," let's say, or "We never do this." Now, women need to understand men are very literal creatures. So when you say the word "we never do this," he starts thinking back on all the times that you did. Now, when a woman says "we never go out," that's not what she means. She means, "We went out 2 weeks ago and I feel like we need to go out again and I feel a bit lonely right now. So let's go out." That's what she means when she says that sentence. But in a man's head, all he hears is all the times that he did take her out, but she's not acknowledging. So you need to realize men are very literal creatures, and the way that you present certain words has to be done in a different way.
That's so true. But what about the men that don't have those skills? Because a lot of men, they don't actually have those skills anymore. And now, especially with the new generation, everything is very technically online. And they do things online. They're not actually much hands-on anymore. Your dad used to fix things. Your uncle fixed things, for example, if you're using the same thing that you used. But nowadays, honestly, it is the mom that's letting them still play on the Xbox, even when they're 25. And the mom's fixing certain things, like you said. And that's why women are becoming and having more masculine energy, because they are not actually getting the masculine that used to survive and live before. So what is happening to men nowadays? Not all of them, I am generalizing here, but I do see that a lot. And that's why we have women that are complaining, because what you're describing, honestly, it is very limiting nowadays and it's getting less and less.
That's a very good question. I think that's an issue that we face in the West. I think strong men create easy times and easy times create weak men.
Mm.
Now, let's go back to, for example, and I always love to give this example, and it's a very insightful one. There is currently a boy in Syria. He's about 15 years old. He is a sole provider to his family. He has a disabled
Mm.
father, a mother, and a younger sister he needs to take care of. He goes out every single day. He earns a living. He comes back, provides food and medication for his family, for his dad. Now, when this boy grows up, he's only 15 right now. And when he grows up and turns 23, 24, 25, you cannot, to call him a boy would be disrespect. He is a man. He has gone through pain and challenges. He has seen the worst of the worst. So he is able to fix what needs to be fixed. He has gone through challenges. Now he is a man. Men in the West, there aren't men. They are just boys, even if they're 23, 24, 25, 26. They have the easiest life. This is why I said strong men create easy times and easy times create weak men. Weak men cannot fix things. Weak men haven't experienced pain. If you have not experienced pain as a man, you have not evolved. Now, as a woman, you don't have to go through challenges and difficulties to become a beautiful mother or a beautiful woman. But whereas a man, you need to, if you have to be strong, you have to go through challenges. This is why in every film that you've ever seen, you always see a hero go through struggle and come out the other side strong. If he doesn't go through struggle, how is he going to be strong? If you're always weak and inside the house playing Xbox or PlayStation and your mom's fixing things, then how are you going to be a high value man? And this is what I teach men. And this is what I teach women into realizing the difference between a high value man, a man who puts God first much more than anything else in his life, because at the end of the day, we are Muslim. I am Muslim. My final destination is to God. I have to go through challenges and difficulties to realize how forgiving and loving God is. If I have an easy life all the time, how will I know that God is the most forgiving?
I really, really admire what you just said. And I think it really does put everything in a nutshell with regards to what I sort of questioned you initially. I think it's so, so important what you just highlighted. And honestly, anyone who's just tuned in, please do rewind, take notes, because these are really vital things. And yeah, you know, where we're living right now, and I've always said that a lot of the times when clients come to me as well, and I'm like, your life's really comfortable. It's really easy. And I'm known as boot camp coach. So you're going to definitely get that kick and that jump start, because that's what you need right now. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just the fact that you're so right. And the example that you gave is just so true. We are, you know, living in very, very easy, comfortable lives. And yes, we have adversity and challenges, but it's absolutely no way compared to what men really need in their lives in order to understand the meaning of life, to become the men that they need to, so that they can take hold of their, you know, and take the reins for their household, their wife, their children, and their family in the future. So I think that was so beautifully put, honestly. On the other hand, now, we also know that men love respect because they want to be spoken to in a particular way. And I am known to call out people, and especially women, because, you know, I can. And, you know, a lot of people may find, especially men, difficult to do that because it's coming from their perspective. So I will do it because it's not everyone, and women are not innocent, right? Most definitely not. And sometimes they can be quite manipulative, or whether it's knowingly or unknowingly, and they just also very immature in their own minds and quite demanding. So they do also have to learn how to communicate, because communication is very wide. So how does a man love to be spoken to and heard? And we always complain that you don't listen. Why is it that you don't listen? Are we screeching?
Yes, that's a very good question. Like I said before, men are very literal creatures. At the same time, women are very emotional creatures. But overall, humans are very emotional creatures. We have to realize, even though a man can say a billion times he is very logical, there are times where he can be very emotional. And sometimes it's good to be in a masculine state all the time, but you have to realize even men have feminine traits, and even when men go through femininity at times. You can't be masculine 100% of the time. When it relates back to respect, you need to realize as women that to respect him is to raise his masculinity, to say, you are the man of the house. You need to imagine him being a captain of the ship. Let's say, and I absolutely love this story, and I hope you bear with me while listening to it. It's not too long. Imagine that there is a king and a queen, and they're on a ship. They're sailing through, and a storm comes in. And it's such a bad and dangerous storm that the woman turns to the man and says, we are going to die. I don't know what to do. And the man, it's an old story. He takes a sword out and he places it close to the woman's neck. And he says, do you think that I will kill you in this situation? And she says, no, I love and respect you. I know you will never hurt me. And he puts the sword back in his pocket, let's say, and he says, the same way I trust God and I love him and he loves me, and I know he's never going to do anything to me, even though we're going through this storm. So it relates back to the fact that for you to have trust and respect in your man, you need to value his decision making. You need to value that he is in lead, and you need to trust his ability to lead, to be a masculine man. If you were to question his ability to lead, it is highly disrespectful to him. So if you are looking to get married and on your way to get married, then you need to realize, is this a man that I see leading the ship in terms of where it's heading, in terms of the direction where it's heading as a relationship? Am I trusting him enough? Will I be trusting him enough as a man in the future? Or do I see myself questioning his ability as a masculine man?
Very good. I love that. That is also another really great way of us women trying to gauge as to who we're going to get into. We actually have another question. We're quite busy today. So someone has messaged saying, I am married. My husband loves me a lot. I always wondered, though, what does a man think when he looks at another woman? Is he just observing innocently, or do thoughts of attraction enter his mind? Very good question. And thank you so much for sending that through. What's your thoughts? So tell me exactly. Tell me the truth. What are you thinking?
Okay, I'm very candid and honest in the best possible way. I always say men lust first and love second. So
even when they're married for somebody else?
Even if they're married, it relates back to the fact that men are very visual creatures.
Okay. Visual
in the sense that men like to see much more than women do. But at the same time, this is a big test for men. You need to be having respect for the person that you're married to. But sometimes it is a man's nature to look, which is understandable. But at the same time, for you to respect your wife, you need to have a glance, even if it's accident, and look down.
Okay.
So a man's always going to look in the sense that he is, it's in his nature, really. So if he is respectful towards you and much more to you than to God, he is going to look down and be respectful to God before you. This is what I said. You need to be loyal to God before you get married as a man. So it relates back to God, really. You need to
so then he'll have the self-control and he'll have the ways of dealing with it in a particular way. Well, we are coming into another break, our final break. And, you know, I love that question and I love the answer as well. And I think hopefully that will give you some idea as to what they're thinking. So inshallah, we will be back with the final part. Please do not go away. We are going to continue with the conversation and we will see you shortly. Salam. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Single Muslim Live here on British Muslim TV, sponsored by SingleMuslim.com. Having a really, really very wonderful and valuable conversation with Abdullah tonight, a relationship coach who's given us such amazing gems with regards to understanding a man's mind and also helping, women as well as men, to grow into human beings. And when you said that at the beginning as to what you do, now I truly understand why, because you've proven that so far in the show by explaining how we need to be. And I loved everything that you've said so far. Before the break, we had a question with regards to what a man sort of thinks when they're looking at other women. And, I just want to quickly touch on that. I guess it's the meaning that you also aspire to. I mean, when you mentioned as well that women need to have confidence in a man. So when there's mistrust and when there's doubt, how can that really affect the relationship? Because again, is it the insecurity of the man or is it the women that's feeling like that? Because as much as you want to know what a man thinks, you have to be confident, like you said, in your man. So what is it that you would advise women when they do have that doubt and they do have that sort of way of thinking, that how damaging is it to the relationship when they do have those kind of things? And how would they open it up within a conversation in order so that it doesn't sort of filter and then they go talk to their friends and they get more and more bigger ideas and it only explodes. And in the end, the man comes home and nothing's happened, but in their mind, so much has happened. And then it just creates an issue. So, you know how we think sometimes. So what sort of solutions do you give to that?
That's a very good question to ask. And what I will say is men and women, I think, are very different species. So they could be from the same animal kingdom, let's say, but very different species in the sense that they're very different to each other. A man expresses himself very differently compared to a woman. So let's say you are married and, nowadays both genders work, they go out and work and provide for the family. Let's say you're a man who's at home and he is looking after things, and your wife comes home and she's had a very long, stressful day at work. She comes home and she starts telling you about what's happened, that her boss has been treating her horribly, this went wrong, that went wrong at work. What do you do as a man? So men are problem solvers. We like to fix things. That's what we thrive in. We like to be a way of fixing anything that you're facing. But women like to speak about certain things without requiring a solution to their problems. So if she comes home and she is complaining about certain things, your job as her partner is to stand there and say, I understand. I know what you're going through. Come here, give me a hug. Or would you like me to get you a hot beverage, let's say? You need to validate her feelings. You need to be there as a good listener. You do not need to be there and provide solutions to her issues. You need to be there as an ear that she can speak to and a comfort when she comes home. Because a lot of the times men can say, oh, if your boss is treating you horribly, why don't you quit the job? Why don't you do this? Whereas the woman will turn around and say, you're not listening to me. You need to be there and be a good listener rather than providing solutions. And if you flip the switch and a man comes home, he does not need to talk about his issues. Men are not hardwired that way. When we come home, we like to have peace and quiet. We like to sit down because we've been out the whole day solving problems, because that's what we do as men. When we come home, we do not want to be solving more problems. We like to sit there and think about ways that we can resolve the problems that we've been facing outside. So when we come home, we want to speak about nothing until we're fully recharged. A lot of the times I say men are like rubber bands. We tend to pull away for no reason, but we always come back. And we always come back to who? The people that we love, especially our wives. We need to come back to them. So if a man is wanting space from you, give him that space, because he will come back. Do not say, you do not spend time with me, because that's going to pull him even more away. What you need to do is allow him that space for him to come back. And men always come back when you give them that space for them to resolve the issues that they're facing in their head. Hopefully that answered the question.
No, it really does. And I think it's so, so true. Because even though I've said that before, it's great to hear it from yourself because women get scared and fearful when they're putting away, when actually, if you allow that space, you don't realize how much growth it is in there. But, it's that insecurity and obviously the doubt of them not coming back. But you're absolutely right. I absolutely love that. That is so true. When it comes to intimacy, before we end, I do want to also get your details, but I want to ask another question because, women may feel that, is that the only thing that you want? And the intimacy that you want is just the physical intimacy? Because with women, we want a lot of emotional intimacy first. So how is it with you? Is it just physical, or do you also have a side that we don't know about when it comes to intimacy?
A very good question. And the easiest way to put this is men like to express their intimacy through touch.
Okay.
Women like to express their intimacy through words. So if a man is intimate with you in the sense that he wants to be physical with you in a very halal fashion, then that is his way of showing you that he is caring and loving towards you. Sometimes, a lot of the times, men do not like to speak about how they're feeling because, like I said, we are problem solvers. We like to go out and fix our issues and not speak about those issues with our female because we feel like, because we are men, I can solve it by myself and I do not need to involve my wife into this issue. But at the same time, we as men need to realize that this is someone that we can trust and value and that we should tell them our issues. Even though she can't solve them, even though, let's say, you are having a big issue at work that she can't really fix, but it's good to speak about certain things. So it's just the fact that you need to express yourself as men because you have a valuable asset with you, which is your wife.
Brilliant. I love that. I think, again, another very important aspect that we need to understand about how the difference is between men and women when it comes to intimacy. I also know that, men and women have different sort of interests, even if they have the same values. So they would like to have the shared interests and have little things in common. However, like goals and hobbies may be different. So how do you navigate around the differences, and what does a man want when it comes to a woman? Does he want her to have her own life and independency, or do you think that as you said before, you want to solve problems or you want to fix things, but if she's able to do it herself, isn't that also a little bit attractive or not?
That's good. Yes, I will say this. In terms of having different interests, or in the fact that you're completely different to the person that you're married to. The best marriages that work are when, and I use this expression, birds of the same color flock together because you have the most in common with them. Yeah. So if you're married to someone who has the same core values as you, then you ultimately get along with them the most. Now, core values and interests are very different at the same time. A husband could like football and the wife could like something completely different. But at the end of the day, if they have the same core values, especially as Muslims, then they will have a successful marriage.
Definitely. We have another question, actually, but I also want to get your details before we end. So let me quickly go into this question. My sister's also questioning, do guys feel hesitant to marry divorced women? If so, why?
I think nowadays, a lot of men may have a certain view of women who are divorced, but I will also say this, that the Prophet, peace be upon him, he was married at the age of 25 to someone who was 45, and he is the best role model to follow in any realm. So if you can keep that in mind moving forward, and if you like someone who is divorced, then you should think about our Prophet, peace be upon him, and act in accordance.
Perfect. I love that. Thank you so much for your time. How do people get hold of you, Abdullah? Because I really think it's important that men and women of all ages and all stages in their life, whether they're looking for a relationship or in a relationship, they should really seek your coaching. So how do they get hold of you? Tell us tonight.
Well, you can find me on Instagram. My handle is Abdullah and then VXZ. So Abdullah VXZ. And my name's going to pop up. You'll see I've got all my details listed there. You can contact me, visit my website. So all you need to do is go on Instagram, type in my name, Abdullah, followed by VXZ.
Perfect. Thank you so much. No, I do appreciate that. I think you've been an absolute gem tonight, giving us so many hidden secrets that, you know, even though we maybe have heard it before, it's really good to hear from someone who's professional, who understands their faith. And at the same time, you know, having a man talk about relationships, I think it's really important that we hear that today. Any final thoughts for anyone who's struggling today, whether for men and for women? We have a couple of minutes, so I'd love you to have the final say with regards to this topic, or just anything in general, please.
Of course. I will say to all the beautiful women that are watching this, who are also Muslim, that do realize men like me do exist, who have been raised by a beautiful and strong mother, that I could not be who I am today because of my mom. And I understand the pain that you're going through as a female, as a Muslim, as someone who is trying to find the right person to marry and get along with. Just know, men like me do exist who value and understand how you're feeling. And you do not need to marry someone just because you have to marry them. You have to marry someone because you want to marry them, because their core values align with your core values as a Muslim, as a human being.
What about anything for the men out there? Just under a few minutes, a few seconds, actually.
For the men, I would say I am here as your guide, to guide you, to make you strong and honorable for the times that are coming. If you are living in a very easy life, do understand that for you to evolve and to grow, you have to go through pain and hardships. A diamond is only made a diamond when it goes through immense pressure. Otherwise, it's just carbon atoms inside the earth. You go through immense pressure and you get crystallized. And then you get taken out and you're cut and sliced and made into a beautiful diamond. So just know that your beauty lies in the pressures and difficulties that life is going to throw at you. And God is testing you and God loves you.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful ending. And inshallah, you know, I hope that you have so many people come to you after this, because I certainly learned a lot. Thank you, Abdullah, for tonight. An absolute pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And please do go to Abdullah's Instagram page and get some coaching and get the advice that you need. Everyone, I really appreciate you tonight. Inshallah, we'll be back same time next week. Take care, have a lovely evening, and we will see you then. Salam.